It's a dangerous thing for a citizen government when 82% think we have a professional political class. What does that say? It says the vast majority of Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, men and women, young and old, the vast majority of Americans have concluded that they have lost faith in the process of their governance and their politics. And we cannot let that stand. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to work with me, and I'm going to use technology as a tool to unlock your potential as citizens and to solve problems where we know the answer. So, for example, every Saturday in a weekly radio address, I'm going to ask you to take out your smartphones. By the way, if you have a flip phone, please upgrade. Seriously, it won't work on a flip phone. You have 15 months to do this. I know there are a lot of flip phones here in New Hampshire. I've seen them. In any event, I'm going to ask you to take out your smartphones, okay? And I'm going to ask you some basic questions because you know the answers. You know the answers. Example, why is it that government spends more money each and every year and yet never has enough money to do its duty? The government spends more money every single year, and yet when asked to do something important, care for our veterans, secure the border, build roads and bridges, what's the answer? Always. We need more money. How can that possibly be? Well, I'll tell you how it is. It's because we don't know where our money's being spent, so we can't ever prioritize it. So we need to go to some version of zero-based budgeting so we know where every single dollar is being spent. That is the only way you can spend less and prioritize. And you know how we're going to get that done? You're going to help me get that done. Because on a weekly radio address, I'm going to say, fellow citizens, please take out your smartphones. I'd like to ask you a question. Do you think it's important that we know where every dollar of your money is being spent? Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. This technology exists. You're going to press 1 because you know the answer. And when you press 1, along with tens of millions of your fellow citizens, Congress will feel the pressure. So all the way back to the difference between management and leadership and the importance of citizenship. And I will close with this. Margaret Thatcher once addressed her fellow countrymen and women at a pivotal point in her nation's history, and she said this: I am not content to manage the decline of a great nation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, neither am I, and I think we have been managing the decline of this great nation for quite long enough, thank you very much. This must be the greatest century for the greatest nation in the history of the world, and with your votes and your support and your prayers, I am prepared to work with you, the citizens of this great nation, and lead the resurgence of a great nation. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so once again, we'll try to get to as many questions as we possibly can. I'll take them in order. There were some duplicate questions, so we'll put them together. Any questions that Carly doesn't have a chance to answer, I will give to her team, so she has a chance to look at them as well. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Carly, right now, federal government mandates in what subjects and in what grades children should be subjected to standardized tests. Do you oppose the federal government having this power?
Yes. But allow me to elaborate, because I think one of the things we must do in order to win in 2016, and we must win in 2016, is we must explain some of these things to the American people. We have to reintroduce our principles once again. So why do I say, yes, I oppose this? Because if you look at the facts are clear. The Department of Education has grown bigger and bigger and bigger for almost 50 years. We spend more money per pupil out of Washington, D.C. than virtually any nation on earth, and yet the quality of our education continues to decline. And we are stuck right in the middle. Our performance for our students, in other words, is mediocre. So what do you conclude from that? The size of the Department of Education has nothing to do with the quality of education. And we know what has something to do with the quality of education. It's a great teacher in front of the classroom. It's an involved parent and a community. And so we need to give every parent a choice, a real choice, so their children have a chance. And what Common Core has turned into, I don't know how it started, but what it's turned into, without a doubt, written in part by testing companies and textbook companies. That's called crony capitalism, ladies and gentlemen. They are trying to protect their interests in all of this. What Common Core has turned into is a bureaucratic, standardized program telling teachers how to teach and students how to learn, and it will not help.
Next question. How do you plan to control the lobbying efforts of special interest groups who use their money to exploit Congress?
Yeah. Well, there's a really important question, isn't it? And it does have to do with this complexity of government. So why is just as one example, why is a 73,000-page tax code so damaging to the potential and the opportunity and the future of this nation? Because a 73,000-page tax code is so complicated that only a big, powerful interest can understand it. I can't tell you how many business owners I met right here in New Hampshire at tax day who said to me, you know what, I didn't get my taxes done on time because I don't understand it anymore, and my accountant doesn't understand it anymore. All of that complexity is part of why we're destroying small and family-owned businesses. But guess who can maneuver within all that complexity? Big, powerful, wealthy, well-connected interests. And guess how they do it? They hire accountants and lawyers and lobbyists. And all those people get together to figure out how do we make all of this complexity advantage us. It is why the only way to level the playing field between big, powerful, wealthy, well-connected, and small, powerless is to simplify. Simplify. You know in your heart that if something is so complicated you don't understand it, you're getting taken advantage of. We all know that. We all know that. And every single one of these rules that got rolled out crush people who can't understand. Let me just give you another example. The EPA, you know, a lawless agency. We're not a nation of laws anymore, ladies and gentlemen. We have become a nation of rules. And rules are being rolled out by rule makers who are not accountable to anyone and not elected by anyone. And they are destroying... They're destroying whole industries. They're destroying the coal industry, not on the altar of science, on the altar of ideology, which we can talk about if you like. But my point is this. The EPA, as an example of these special interests and how complexity favors the big, the powerful, the wealthy, the well-connected, the EPA just rolled out a whole new set of rules called WOTUS, the Waters of the United States. The EPA now controls basically 99% of the groundwater of this nation. Now, who do you suppose that harms? I've been in Iowa a lot. These farmers, I mean, they got water in their farms. And guess what? They don't even know if they're breaking the law anymore. Every time we spin out complexity, whether it's rules, regs, laws, tax code, the big, the powerful, the wealthy, the well-connected do just fine. They hire all those special interests to make that complexity work for them. And we crush the small and the powerless. We must simplify. And when we simplify in the right way, we not only reduce the size and power of government, but we unlock the potential of this nation.
Next question, and I have to say, the person who submitted this question, you have awesome handwriting. Carly, what steps would you take to reassure Israel and our friends in the Middle East that we will not look away in light of the Iran nuclear deal?
It's such an important question because as we are seeing play out day by day, the world is a very dangerous place when we don't lead. Iran, Russia, Iraq, Syria, they are forming an unholy alliance that advances Iran's desire to be a powerful regional hegemon and Russia's desire to be the leading player in the Middle East. I would do two things on day one. I would make, actually several things, but on day one I would make two phone calls. The first will be to my good friend Bibi Netanyahu, a man I've known a long time, to reassure him that we will stand with the state of Israel always. And I want everybody in the world to know that phone call was made. The second will be to the supreme leader of Iran. He might not take my phone call. I'm not sure I'm quite his cup of tea, but he will get the message. And the message is this: New Deal. I don't care what deal you sign with President Obama, New Deal. Here's the deal. Until you open every military and every nuclear facility to real, anytime, anywhere inspections by our people, not yours, we, the United States of America, will make it as difficult as possible for you to move money around the global financial system. We can do that. We don't need anyone's permission. We don't need anyone's collaboration to do it. We must do it. We must cut off the money flow. And with those 2 phone calls, everyone in the world will understand the United States of America is back in the leadership business. We will stand with our allies and we will confront our adversaries. As regards to Russia, and it's important because Russia is aiding Syria and Iran, as regards to Russia, we have talked way too much to them. And I wouldn't talk to Vladimir Putin at all, although I have met him. But what I would do is start rebuilding the Sixth Fleet aggressively, rebuild the missile defense program in Poland aggressively, conduct aggressive military exercise in the Baltic states, roll a couple thousand more troops into Germany to make sure he got the message, and I would make sure our jets flew wherever and whenever they wanted to. I would confront China in the South China Sea. They're trying to control a trade route worth $5 trillion. And the longer we go on and do nothing about it, which is what this administration has done, nothing, the more bold they become in building military bases and trying to choke off access to that trade route. But I would also hold a Camp David summit with our Sunni Arab allies, the Turks and the Kurds. The Turks, the Kurds, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordanians, Kuwaitis, Bahrainis, Emiratis, I know all of them. The point is, all of the nations that I just named have been trying to work with us to push back against Bashar al-Assad, defeat ISIS, and they've asked us for very specific things. The Kurds have been asking us to arm them for 3 years. We haven't done it. I will. The Egyptians have asked us to share intelligence. The Turks have been asking us to work with them to create and maintain a no-fly zone in the northern part of Syria. These allies will stand up and fight. They will push back, but they will not. They cannot, unless they sense leadership, support, and resolve from the United States of America. And finally, we must begin rebuilding our military and caring for our veterans, because we must have the strongest military on the face of the planet. Everyone has to know it.
This will be the last question. It's a doozy, too. What is your plan to reduce the debt?
Well, it's the right question, isn't it? And how long have we been talking about that? How long have people been running on that? Long time. Well, you know the answer to this. Remember, common sense, good judgment, all these problems are solved, but you know the answer to this. What are the only 2 things we can do? Grow the economy, cut spending. Grow the economy, cut spending, grow the economy, cut spending. That's it, folks. That's all we can do. The good news is, if we do it the right way, we cut spending and help grow the economy. So, example, if you take a 73,000-page tax code and get it down to 3, why 3? Because 3 is about as much as a single individual can understand. So, I'm going to need your help. Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. But the point is, when you go from 73,000 pages to 3, that requires us to close every loophole, all these deductions, all these special interests. When you go from 73,000 to 3, what happens? Not only do you help grow the economy, because all these small business owners and entrepreneurs go, yay, I know how to build a business with this kind of tax code, but you also need a whole lot less IRS agents, right? Right. When you start to roll back all of these lawless rules, whether it's from the EPA, the FCC, the National Labor Relations Board, when you start to roll all those back, you need a heck of a lot less people in those agencies, don't you? When you start to move power, money, responsibility out of the federal government and back to states and communities, what happens? So, on top of all those things I just mentioned, there are 3 systemic things that must happen to reduce our debt. Number 1, we have to know where the money is being spent. Going to zero-based budgeting is critically important, because we cannot ever prioritize the money we spend and spend less at the same time unless we know where it's being spent. Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. Second, there have to be consequences in the federal government for dereliction of duty. You cannot have a situation where there literally is no consequence for failure to perform. And that's what we've got. I mean, it's shocking 300,000+ veterans die and only one person has lost their job? I mean, it's shocking. You can watch pornography in a federal government job all day long. We know this from Inspector General reports, and you can earn the same pay, pension, and benefits as somebody trying to do a good job. So we must go to some version of a meritocracy where there is consequence for a failure to perform and reward for contribution and merit. Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. And finally, we have a window of opportunity here, folks. And only somebody who understands bureaucracies, and I do, understands this opportunity. In the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to have 256,000, roughly, baby boomers retire from the federal government. I will not replace a single one. But current course and speed, we're going to replace every single one. Because, you know, it's just the status quo. You just go on and replace them. It's a window of time to take a big chunk out of government. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that was the last question. So if you allow me to just leave you with a couple thoughts. We have to win this election in 2016. We have to win it. And in order to win it, I believe we need a nominee who will fight against the propaganda and lies of the other side, but who will also fight to reintroduce the American people to what it is we believe. I was asked on The View recently. I went on The View. I was asked why I was a Republican. That was the question. Why are you a Republican? And that's a question we need to answer. And my answer was this: because I know no one of us is any better than any other one of us. Each of us is gifted by God. All of us have potential and can live lives of dignity and purpose and meaning. And I know that our values and our principles work better to lift everyone up. You see, progressives don't believe this. They believe some are smarter than others, some are better than others, some are not capable, so some are going to take care of others. I believe that is the height of disrespect and disregard for our fellow citizens and our fellow Americans. And we need somebody who can do this job, because the job needs doing now at this pivotal point. We can't afford to have yet another 4 years where nothing ever really changes, because this federal government has too much power, too much ineptitude, too much corruption, and as citizens we need to take it back. So to do this job, I think, requires somebody who actually understands how the economy works, who understands how the world works and who's in it, who understands bureaucracies, how to cut them down to size and hold them accountable, who understands technology, because technology is a tool that can be used to re-engage citizens in the process of their government, but it is also a weapon being used against us. And most importantly of all, perhaps, we need someone who understands what leadership is. Leadership is not about title. It's not about how big your office is or your airplane or your ego. The highest calling of leadership is to unlock potential in others. And now we need a leader who, with the citizens of this great nation, will unlock the possibilities for every American and the potential of this blessed nation. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause. Carly Ferrarino. So as Carly makes her way through, once again, a few things I do want to point out. For those of you who are Facebooking and Twitter, don't forget hashtag Practical Federalism. Use that, please.
Croc TV.